Emma Carter didn't trip in a cute way. She didn't wobble and laugh and catch herself. She fell. Hard, fast, like the floor had been waiting. 1 second she was gliding through the ballroom with a silver tray balanced in both hands, eyes down, posture perfect, the way Luca Conti's staff was trained to move, clean, silent, invisible. The next second, a heel caught on the edge of someone's gown, the tray tilted, and Emma's stomach dropped. She braced for impact. Instead, arms wrapped around her so quickly it felt impossible. A firm hand locked at her waist. Another supported her back. Her face stopped inches from a broad chest in a dark suit. Warm, solid, safe. "Easy," a man's voice murmured near her ear. Smooth, amused, unmistakably Italian. "I've got you." Emma's breath caught as she looked up. Matteo DeSantis, Luca's closest friend. The one guests whispered about like a rumor. The one women watched, even when they pretended they weren't watching. Matteo's eyes held hers, calm and bright, like he'd caught a storm and didn't mind the rain. He didn't squeeze her. He didn't trap her. He simply kept her steady until her knees remembered how to work. "You okay?" he asked. Emma blinked, cheeks heating. "Yes." Matteo's mouth curved. "Good, because I'm not in the mood to watch you get hurt in a room full of people who don't deserve your fear." Emma tried to step back. Matteo let her, slowly, like he was giving her control back on purpose. The ballroom kept moving, but Emma felt the shift around them. A few heads turned. A few smiles sharpened. Luca Conti's events weren't just parties. They were theaters, and everyone played a role. Emma hated being on stage. Matteo's gaze flicked to her tray on the floor, then back to her face. "I just saved your evening, so technically you owe me one thing." Emma's brows rose. "What thing?" "A smile," Matteo said, like it was a simple request, not a dangerous one. Emma tried to stay neutral. "I'm working." Matteo nodded solemnly. "Then consider it a work requirement. Happy staff makes rich people feel better about themselves." Emma almost laughed. Almost. Matteo noticed anyway. "There, that almost laugh. I'll take it." Emma's cheeks warmed more. "You're very confident." Matteo leaned in slightly, voice lower. "Only about the things I'm sure of." "Like what?" Matteo's eyes dropped to her lips for half a second. Quick, controlled, then returned to her eyes. "Like the fact that you shouldn't be invisible." Emma's heart jumped in a way she didn't like, because she'd been invisible for months. Not to the other staff, not to the chef or the cleaners, or the guards who nodded politely when she passed. To Luca. She worked in Luca Conti's home. She moved through his halls. She folded his clothes. She kept his world running quietly. And Luca never truly looked at her. Until now. Emma felt it before she saw it, the way the air changed when Luca moved. She turned her head slightly. Across the ballroom, Luca Conti stood with a drink in hand, suit perfect, expression calm, body still like a statue carved for control. But his eyes were locked on Emma, not on the tray, not on the situation, on her. It hit Emma like a sudden heat in her chest. Matteo followed her gaze and let out a soft sigh. "Ah, the king has noticed the room exists." Emma whispered, "He's not a king." Matteo's smile stayed easy. "In his mind he is. And in everyone else's mind, he's close enough." Luca began walking toward them. He didn't rush. He didn't show emotion. But the path he cut through the crowd made people shift without thinking. The kind of man Luca was didn't need to raise his voice. He reached Emma and Matteo and stopped close enough that Emma felt the weight of him. "Emma," Luca said. Emma froze. He knew her name. Of course he did. He had hired her. He had her file, her schedule, her life inside his house. But he had never said it like that, like he had just learned it. Matteo's brows rose slightly. "Look at you," he said to Luca, amused. "Speaking to your staff like they're human." Luca's gaze flicked to Matteo's face, then dropped to Matteo's hand, still hovering near Emma's waist, not gripping, but too close. Luca's jaw tightened. "Are you hurt?" Luca asked Emma. Emma's mouth went dry. "No, Mr. Conti." Matteo made a soft sound. "Mr. Conti, huh?" Emma didn't look at him. She kept her eyes on Luca, like she'd been trained. Luca's voice stayed calm. "Come with me." Emma's stomach dropped. A quiet fear rose, automatic, trained by rules she never questioned. "Yes, Mr. Conti." Matteo's voice slipped in, gentle but firm. "She's not a suitcase." Luca's eyes narrowed. "I didn't ask you." Matteo's smile didn't change. "No, you didn't. You rarely ask. You just decide." Luca held Matteo's gaze for a hard second, then turned away and headed toward the side corridor. Emma followed, trying to keep her steps steady. Behind her, Matteo's voice called softly, "Emma." She stopped without turning. Matteo continued, "If you ever feel like you're not okay in a room like this, you find me." Emma's throat tightened. She didn't answer, because answering felt like stepping into something she couldn't pretend was harmless. In the corridor, Luca stopped abruptly and turned to face her. They were alone now. Quiet hallway, soft lighting, the distant hum of the party muffled by expensive walls. Luca stared at Emma like he was seeing her for the first time and hated that the timing wasn't his choice. "You almost fell," he said. Emma forced calm. "Matteo caught me." Luca's eyes sharpened at Matteo's name. "I saw." Emma swallowed. "I'm not hurt." Luca stepped closer, slow, controlled, until Emma had to tilt her head to keep eye contact. His gaze flicked to her mouth, then back to her eyes. "Did he touch you?" Luca asked, voice low. Emma blinked, stunned. He caught me." Luca's jaw flexed. "I don't like people putting their hands on what's mine." The words hit the hallway like a door slamming. Emma's chest heated with anger and something else she didn't want to name. She lifted her chin. "I'm not yours." Luca froze. Emma's voice stayed steady even though her heart was pounding. "I work for you. That's all." Luca stared, silent, then said quietly, "You're in my home. And I'm still a person." Emma replied. A beat of silence. Then Luca's expression shifted, something sharp and real crossing his face, like he wasn't used to being challenged by someone who wasn't trying to take power from him. He spoke again, softer. "Stay away from Matteo." Emma's brows lifted. "Why?" Luca's gaze held hers. "Because he doesn't stop once he wants something." Emma's breath caught. "Is that what this is?" Luca didn't answer. His phone buzzed in his pocket. He ignored it. Emma's voice turned quiet but firm. "You didn't look at me for months. Now you're telling me who I can be near?" Luca's jaw tightened. "I'm telling you what's safe." Emma shook her head slowly. "Safety isn't control." Luca's eyes darkened. For a second, just a second, Emma thought he might reach for her, touch her face, pull her close, prove something to himself. But Luca didn't move. He only said, "Go back. Finish your duties." Emma nodded, throat tight. "Yes, Mr. Conti." She turned to leave, but Luca's voice stopped her again. "Emma." She looked back. His gaze was intense, almost frustrated, like he didn't know what to do with the fact that he'd noticed her at all. "Don't make me regret letting you out of my sight," Luca said quietly. Emma's pulse jumped, because it sounded like a warning, and it sounded like something else. She walked back into the ballroom, face calm, hand steady, heart not steady at all. Across the room, Matteo watched her like he'd been waiting. He lifted his glass slightly, a silent invitation, and as Emma returned to her tray, her phone buzzed in her pocket. An unknown number. "You don't belong in that house. Ask Luca why he really hired you." Emma's blood turned cold, because she had never told anyone her last name when she applied. So, who knew? And what exactly had Luca Conti been hiding from her? Emma tried to work like the message didn't exist, like her heart wasn't pounding in her throat, like Luca Conti hadn't just looked at her like a man with a problem he didn't know how to solve, and like Matteo DeSantis hadn't made her feel in less than a minute more seen than she'd felt in months. She kept moving through the ballroom with a practiced calm, but her mind replayed everything. Matteo's arms, Luca's eyes, The text message that felt like a hand around her wrist. Ask Luca why he really hired you. Emma's breath went shallow. A tray passed. A guest smiled too widely. Someone's laugh sounded fake. Then a familiar voice slipped behind her, close enough to send heat across her skin. Emma! She didn't jump, but she wanted to. She turned. Matteo stood there like he belonged everywhere, including the space right in front of her. Emma kept her face neutral. You shouldn't be near the staff. Matteo's mouth curved. And you shouldn't be pretending you're fine. Emma's heart thumped. I am fine. Matteo's brows lifted. That's your official statement? Emma narrowed her eyes. Yes. Matteo nodded like he respected a strong liar. Okay. Then as a concerned citizen, I'm going to ask a different question. Emma waited. Matteo's voice dropped, quieter. Why did Luca suddenly look like he wanted to bite my head off? Emma stiffened. He didn't. Matteo smiled, amused. He did. I've seen that look before. Usually it comes right before he tells someone to disappear. Emma swallowed. You provoke him. Matteo leaned slightly closer. I do, but he's never cared who I flirt with. Emma's pulse jumped. Matteo watched her reaction and softened his tone. He cares now. Emma's voice came out sharp. No. Matteo's gaze held hers. You can say no, but your cheeks are doing a whole different answer. Emma opened her mouth to push back, and her co-worker Tessa appeared beside Emma like she'd been summoned by tension. Tessa smiled too brightly at Matteo. Mr. DeSantis. Matteo's eyes flicked to her. Hello. Tessa leaned closer to Emma, whispering loudly enough that Matteo could hear. He's even better looking in real life. Emma hissed, Tessa. Matteo laughed, genuinely. I like her. Tessa nodded. I like gossip. This is excellent. Emma wanted to melt into the floor. Matteo looked back at Emma, expression warmer now. Come outside for 1 minute. Emma blinked. No. Matteo didn't argue. He just said calmly, 1 minute. You look like you're about to break something with your teeth. Emma's jaw tightened. I'm working. Matteo nodded. You're also human. Tessa's eyes widened. Then she pointed behind Emma with fake urgency. Chef needs you to check the terrace setup. Right now. Very important. Emma glared. You're not subtle. Tessa whispered back. Neither is he. Emma exhaled slowly, then said through clenched teeth, 1 minute. Matteo's smile turned pleased, but he kept his tone respectful. 1 minute. They slipped through the side corridor to the back terrace. Cold air hit Emma's face and cleared her head a little. The city lights below looked sharp, and the noise inside turned into a muted hum. Matteo leaned on the railing like the night belonged to him. Emma crossed her arms, trying to look annoyed enough to keep her heart from doing embarrassing things. Matteo watched her for a moment, then said softly, You don't like being seen. Emma's throat tightened. I'm staff. Matteo's gaze stayed on her face. You're a woman who works hard, holds her posture like armor, and reads people like she's had to protect herself before. Emma blinked. You don't know me. Matteo nodded once. Then tell me I'm wrong. Emma opened her mouth. No words came, because he wasn't wrong. Matteo's voice turned gentler. What's your favorite thing? Emma's brows knit. What? Matteo smiled slightly. Something simple. Something that belongs to you, not to Luca's schedule. Emma swallowed. Books. Matteo's eyes warmed. What kind? Emma hesitated, then said it anyway. Romance. Matteo's smile widened like she'd given him a gift. Good choice. Emma narrowed her eyes. Don't tease me. Matteo's tone stayed sincere. I'm not teasing. I'm happy. It means you still believe in love. Emma's chest tightened. Believing and getting it aren't the same. Matteo tilted his head. Have you ever been loved properly? Emma froze. Matteo didn't push. He only watched her with steady patience. Emma's voice came out quiet. Not like that. Matteo's gaze softened. Then that's a shame. Emma's breath hitched. Why do you care? Matteo stepped closer by one slow step, not touching, not trapping. just close enough that Emma felt his warmth against the cold air. "Because I want you to have it," Matteo said. Emma's pulse jumped hard. She should have stepped back. Instead, she whispered, "You're Luca's friend." Matteo nodded. "Yes. And he told me to stay away from you," Emma admitted. Matteo's mouth curved slightly, not smug, more like he expected it. "Of course he did." Emma's voice tightened. "Why?" Matteo's eyes held hers. "Because Luca doesn't like losing control." Emma swallowed. "This isn't a game." Matteo's tone turned serious. "It's not." Emma searched his face, looking for charm, for manipulation, for anything that would make it easy to walk away. Matteo didn't give her that. He looked honest. "I'm not here to steal you," Matteo said quietly. "I'm here to offer you something." Emma's throat tightened. "What?" Matteo's gaze dipped to her lips again, longer this time, then returned to her eyes. "A choice." Emma's heart hammered. Matteo lifted his hand, slow and careful, like he was asking permission without words. His fingertips brushed a loose strand of hair near her cheek, barely touching skin. The sensation was small, but it made Emma's body go still. Matteo's voice dropped. "You feel that?" Emma swallowed, voice shaky. "I shouldn't." Matteo smiled softly. "You're allowed." A door opened behind them. Footsteps. Emma turned and her stomach dropped. Luca stood in the terrace doorway, expression calm, eyes not calm at all. His gaze locked on Matteo's hand near Emma's face, then on Emma's mouth. Then back to Matteo. Luca's voice was quiet, controlled. "Inside." Emma's chest tightened. Matteo didn't move away quickly. He lowered his hand slowly, respectful, but his eyes stayed on Luca with steady defiance. "Relax," Matteo said lightly. "We're breathing air." Luca's jaw flexed. "Emma, now!" Emma stepped toward the door, forcing her voice steady. "Yes, Mr. Conti." As she passed Luca, she felt the heat of his attention on her skin, like he was trying to brand the moment into memory. Inside, Luca didn't walk away. He stopped her in the corridor, close enough to make her breath catch. "You were alone with him," Luca said. Emma lifted her chin. "I was outside for 1 minute." Luca's gaze stayed sharp. "And you let him touch your face." Emma's voice turned firm. "He didn't do anything wrong." Luca's jaw tightened. "I said stay away." Emma's chest heated with anger. "You don't get to decide who I talk to." Luca stared like no one had said that to him in years. His voice dropped. "You're in my world." Emma held his gaze. "And I'm still me." A long silence. Then Luca said something that made Emma's stomach flip. "Wear something different tomorrow night," Luca said. Emma blinked. "Tomorrow?" "Dinner," Luca said. "Matteo will be here." Emma's pulse jumped. "Why are you doing this?" Luca's eyes locked on hers, intense. "Because I need to know something." Emma swallowed. "What?" Luca's voice went low. "Who you become when Matteo looks at you." Emma's phone buzzed again in her pocket. She didn't take it out yet, but her blood turned colder. Because she suddenly understood something that scared her more than Luca's jealousy. Someone was watching. And tomorrow's dinner wasn't just a test between two men. It was a moment someone else might use. So who sent that message? And what would happen if Emma finally demanded the truth, right when Luca was already losing control? Emma barely slept, and by morning she hated how much she cared about a dinner. Not because she wanted attention, because she wanted answers. The message was still on her phone like a bruise, and Luca's eyes last night, sharp, late, almost angry, kept replaying in her mind. When Emma reached the kitchen, the chef was already snapping orders, and 2 assistants were arguing about flowers like their lives depended on centerpieces. Miles, one of Luca's bodyguards, stood near the counter with a clipboard and a look that said everyone was doing everything wrong. He spotted Emma. "He wants you upstairs." Emma's stomach tightened. "Now?" Miles nodded. "Now." Emma went up, posture straight, heart pounding. She knocked. "Come," Luca's voice called. Emma stepped into Luca's office. Luca stood by the window, suit on, tie undone like he'd put it on, and decided it didn't satisfy him. The city behind him looked cold and sharp. He didn't turn right away. Close the door. Emma closed it softly. Yes, Mr. Conti. Luca finally faced her. Up close, Emma noticed what she usually refused to notice. Luca was handsome in a controlled way. Dark eyes, strong jaw, hair perfect, like he wouldn't allow mess, even on his head. His gaze swept her face like he was searching for something he'd missed. You were outside with Matteo, Luca said. Emma's jaw tightened. For 1 minute. Luca stepped closer, slow. He touched your face. Emma forced calm. He moved my hair. Luca's eyes narrowed. And you didn't stop him. Emma's chest heated. Because he wasn't ordering me. He wasn't treating me like a thing. Luca went still. Emma swallowed. Why did you hire me, Mr. Conti? The question landed hard. Luca's expression didn't shift into confusion. It shifted into caution. Emma's heart sank a little. You do know. Luca's gaze held hers. What happened? Emma pulled out her phone and showed him the message. Luca's face tightened with anger so sharp it almost startled her. Who sent this? Luca asked. I don't know, Emma said, but you're not surprised, so tell me. Luca stared at the phone, then at Emma. Then he closed the distance by 1 step, voice low. You were in danger. Emma's blood went cold. From who? Luca didn't answer fast enough. Emma's chest tightened. You've known this whole time. Luca exhaled slowly. Yes. Emma's voice shook slightly with anger. And you didn't tell me. I wanted you safe, Luca said. Emma stared at him. Safe without truth isn't safe. It's a cage. Luca's jaw flexed. Emma pressed on, forcing steadiness. If I'm in danger, I deserve to know why. I deserve to decide what to do. Luca held her gaze, and for a moment his control cracked enough to show something that looked like regret. Then he said quietly, Your father's name was Daniel Carter. Emma froze. Her throat tightened. How do you know my father? Luca's voice stayed calm, but it sounded heavier now. Because Daniel Carter helped my mother years ago when no one else would. Emma's breath caught. My dad never told me. He didn't want credit, Luca said. He didn't want repayment. Emma's eyes stung. So you hired me because you felt guilty. Luca shook his head once. Not guilt, debt, respect. Emma's voice tightened. And fear. Luca didn't deny it. Emma swallowed hard. Who is doing this? Who is texting me? Luca's gaze sharpened. A man named Victor Hale. Emma's stomach dropped. Victor? Luca watched her closely. You know him. Emma's voice went quiet. He dated my mother after my father died. Luca's expression hardened. And now he wants access to my world. Emma stared, heart pounding. So I'm here because of him. You're here because I owed your father, Luca said. And because Victor would use you without blinking. Emma's chest tightened. And you didn't think I deserved to know. Luca's voice went lower. I didn't want you scared. Emma's jaw clenched. I'm scared anyway. A beat of silence. Then Luca did something that made Emma's breath catch. He reached out, slow, careful, and brushed his fingertips lightly over Emma's wrist, like he was testing a line he'd avoided for months. The touch was small, but it lit her skin. Emma froze. Luca watched her reaction, eyes darkening slightly. You feel that? Emma swallowed. You're my employer. Luca's voice dropped. That's not what I am right now. Emma's heart hammered. She wanted to step back. She also wanted to stay still. That scared her most. Emma pulled her wrist away gently, forcing boundaries back into place. Don't. Luca stared at her like the word hurt. Then he stepped back, control returning like armor. Matteo is coming tonight, Luca said, voice flat again. Dinner. Emma's pulse jumped. Why are you doing this? Luca's gaze locked onto hers, intense. Because I need to know if you're choosing him. Emma's breath caught. Luca continued quieter. And because I need to know if I'm too late. Emma stared. Because Luca saying it out loud felt like a crack in something solid. Before Emma could answer, Luca's phone buzzed sharply. His eyes flicked to the screen, and the color drained from his face in the smallest, most dangerous way. "He's here," Luca said. Emma's blood turned cold. "Victor?" Luca nodded once. "At the perimeter." Emma's heart slammed against her ribs, because the truth Luca had hidden wasn't just emotional, it was urgent. And Emma suddenly realized she might have to choose who she trusted, right now, before someone else forced the choice for her. So when Victor Hale stepped closer to Luca's world, would Luca try to lock Emma down again? Or would Matteo DeSantis be the one who pulled her into freedom before Luca could stop him? The words "he's here" kept echoing in Emma's head as the day crawled toward night. Luca had said Victor Hale was at the perimeter. Then security tightened, calls multiplied, and everyone around Emma acted like nothing was happening, which somehow made it worse. By late afternoon, Luca disappeared into meetings. Miles appeared in the staff wing like a warning sign. "Miss Carter, Mr. Conti wants you ready by 7. Emma kept her face calm. "Ready for what?" Miles hesitated like he wasn't allowed to say the obvious. "Dinner." Emma's chest tightened. "Matteo is still coming?" Miles gave a careful nod. "Yes." Emma looked down at the green dress hanging in her closet and felt her pulse spike again. It wasn't flashy, it wasn't cheap. It hugged her waist, left her shoulders bare, and made her feel like she belonged to herself instead of a uniform. "Still," she whispered, "it's just dinner." Tessa appeared behind her with a grin that was way too happy for a mansion under threat. "It's never just dinner in this house." Emma shot her a look. "Don't start." Tessa lifted both hands. "I'm not starting." Luca started when he decided his maid wasn't invisible anymore. Emma's jaw clenched. "I don't want to be fought over." Tessa's expression softened. "Then don't be. Make them behave." Emma exhaled slowly, then put the dress on. When she walked into the dining area, Miles did a double take so hard he nearly choked on air. Emma pointed at him. "Don't." Miles cleared his throat, eyes darting away. "Yes, ma'am." Emma didn't even get one full breath to settle before Luca entered. He stopped the moment he saw her. Luca Conti didn't stumble. He didn't freeze often. But he froze now, just enough that Emma noticed. His gaze moved over her bare shoulders, her hair down instead of pinned, her collarbone, her face. His expression stayed controlled, but his eyes were too intense to pretend. Then he snapped back into calm like he'd shoved his feelings into a locked drawer. "You're early," Luca said. Emma kept her voice steady. "You told me to be ready." Luca took one slow step closer. "You are." Emma's cheeks warmed. "Is that a problem?" Luca's jaw flexed. "It might be." Before Emma could answer, the elevator chimed. Matteo arrived like he owned the night. Not loud, not arrogant. Just easy confidence, relaxed shoulders, warm eyes, suit fitted like it was designed around him. He stepped out, smiling. Then he saw Emma. His smile shifted, slower, softer. Real. For a second, Matteo didn't speak. Then he said quietly, "Emma." Emma swallowed. "Hi." Matteo moved closer without rushing, stopping at a respectful distance that somehow felt intimate anyway. His eyes took in the dress like he appreciated the effort without making it feel like a performance. "You look—" Matteo paused, then chose a word that made Emma's stomach flip. "Unfair." Emma blinked. "Unfair?" Matteo's mouth curved. To any man trying to pretend he has self-control. Luca's voice cut in, flat. "Dinner." Matteo looked at Luca like he'd almost forgotten he existed. "Right, dinner. The thing we're pretending is the main event." Emma nearly smiled. She caught herself. Matteo noticed anyway and looked pleased, like he'd won a tiny victory. They sat. Luca took the head of the table. Matteo sat across from him, and Emma sat where Luca instructed. Close enough that Luca could watch her, far enough that Matteo couldn't casually touch her. It was a choice Luca made on purpose. Matteo made no comment. He simply talked to Emma like she was the main person at the table. Not staff, not a detail. A woman. "What do you like to do when you're not taking care of Luca's mansion?" Matteo asked. Emma hesitated. "I read." Matteo's eyes warmed. "Romance?" Emma's cheeks heated. "Yes." Matteo smiled. "Good taste." Luca's fork paused. "Of course." Emma turned to Luca. "What does that mean?" Luca's gaze held hers. "It means I didn't know." The admission hit Emma in the chest. Matteo leaned back slightly, still calm. "That's the issue, Luca. You don't ask her things." Luca's jaw tightened. "I hired her to work." Matteo nodded once. "And she's still been a person the whole time." Emma's heart pounded. Not from fear, from the strange feeling of being defended without being claimed. Matteo shifted toward Emma, voice softer. "What's your favorite comfort food?" Emma blinked, caught off guard. "Grilled cheese." Matteo's eyes lit up like she'd said something important. "Yes." Luca looked genuinely annoyed. "It's bread and cheese." Matteo stared at Luca like Luca had insulted a sacred thing. "It's joy." Emma let out a surprised laugh. The sound felt too loud in Luca's quiet world. Matteo's smile widened, proud. "There she is." Luca's gaze snapped to Emma's face like he'd never heard her laugh before. Emma felt exposed. Matteo kept it light, saving her from the tension. "You laugh like you've been holding it in all day." Emma tried to recover. "I'm fine." Matteo's eyes held hers. "Sure." Dinner continued, but the air stayed tight. Luca watched Emma like he was trying to memorize her. Matteo watched her like he was enjoying her. Emma hated that those were two different feelings, because one made her anxious, and the other made her want to lean in. Halfway through, Matteo's tone shifted just slightly. "So, Luca, you said the perimeter alert was handled." Emma's stomach dropped. Luca's gaze sharpened. "It is." Matteo's eyes narrowed, calm but firm. "And you didn't tell me why it happened." Luca's jaw flexed. "Not your business." Matteo looked at Emma, then back at Luca. "It became my business the moment someone decided to target her." Emma's breath caught. Luca's gaze locked on Matteo. "Watch yourself." Matteo didn't flinch. "I am." Emma's voice cut in, steady. "Stop." Both men went still. Emma set her napkin down carefully. "I'm not doing this. I'm not being a tug of war." Luca's face stayed controlled. "No one is pulling." Emma gave him a look. "You are." Luca's eyes tightened. Matteo's voice softened. "Emma, do you want to leave the table?" Emma hesitated. Luca's gaze hit her like a silent command. Emma lifted her chin. "I want honesty." Matteo nodded. "Then we do honesty." Luca stood slowly, chair scraping. "Dinner is over." Matteo didn't stand immediately. He stayed seated, relaxed, and asked Emma in a low voice that made her pulse jump. "Do you want to stay in his house because it's safe? Or do you want to walk out because you're tired of feeling managed?" Emma's throat tightened. She glanced at Luca. Luca's eyes were sharp, late, almost desperate. Then Emma's phone buzzed in her purse. She didn't even have to look to feel the dread. She opened it anyway. Another text. Unknown number. "He's not telling you everything. He never will." Emma's hands went cold. Matteo saw her face change instantly. "What is it?" Emma swallowed. "It's him." Luca's voice turned dangerous and quiet. "Give me the phone." Emma held it close to her chest and shook her head. "No," she said, steady. "Not until you tell me the full truth." Luca stared at her like he couldn't decide what to reveal first. And Matteo's gaze sharpened like he already knew this night was about to crack wide open. So what else had Luca hidden? And how far would Victor Hale go now that Emma stopped obeying? Emma's refusal didn't start a scene. It started a silence. Luca stood at the head of the table, hands resting lightly on the chair back. eyes locked on Emma's phone like it was a weapon. Mateo was on his feet now, calm but alert, watching Luca's face with the kind of focus that didn't miss anything. Emma's voice stayed steady even though her heart was pounding. "I'm done being kept in the dark." Luca's jaw flexed. "Emma? No," Emma cut in. "You don't get to say my name like a warning and expect it to work." Mateo's mouth twitched slightly, like he approved. Luca's gaze flicked to Mateo, then back to Emma. "You're scared." Emma lifted her chin. "Yes, and I still deserve truth." Luca exhaled slowly, one controlled breath, then another, like he was forcing himself to choose the harder option. He finally nodded once. "Fine." Emma's pulse jumped. Luca's voice stayed low. "Victor Hale is not here because he misses you or your mother." Emma's stomach tightened. "I know. He's here because he wants access," Luca continued. "He thinks your connection to me is leverage." Emma frowned. "My connection to you?" Luca's eyes held hers. "Your father helped my mother. Victor learned that you exist. He thinks that means you can open doors." Emma's throat tightened. "And you hired me so he couldn't reach me." Luca nodded once. "Yes." Mateo's tone cut in, calm but sharp. "And you didn't tell her." Luca's gaze hardened. "I didn't want her afraid." Emma stared at Luca. "So you decided ignorance was better?" Luca's mouth tightened. "I decided safety was better." Mateo stepped closer, voice quiet but firm. "Safety without respect isn't safety, Luca. It's control." Luca's gaze snapped to Mateo. "You don't understand." Mateo didn't blink. "I understand enough." Emma held her phone up. "So who is texting me?" Luca's expression went colder. "Victor's people." Emma swallowed. "Can you stop it?" Luca's voice stayed calm. "Yes." Mateo's brows lifted. "Then why hasn't it stopped?" Luca's silence was an answer. Emma's chest tightened. "Because he's closer than you said." Luca's jaw flexed. "He's persistent." Mateo's tone sharpened. "Persistent is not the word for someone who stalks an innocent woman with threats." Luca's eyes flashed. "Don't call her innocent like she's weak." Mateo's gaze held Luca's. "I'm calling her innocent because she didn't ask for any of this." Emma stepped between them. "Enough." A beat of silence. Then Miles appeared at the doorway like the house itself had sent him. "Mr. Conti," Miles said tight. "He's at the gate again, Victor Hale, and he's asking for Emma Carter by name." Emma's blood turned cold. Mateo's body shifted subtly, closer to Emma, protective without grabbing. Luca's expression didn't crack, but his eyes darkened. "He doesn't get her." Emma swallowed. "I want to see him." Luca snapped his gaze to her. "No." Emma lifted her chin. "You don't get to say no for me." Mateo's voice went soft. "Emma." Emma looked at Mateo. "If I keep letting everyone handle this for me, it never ends." Mateo held her gaze, then nodded once. "Then I'm with you." Luca's jaw clenched. "You're not going." Mateo's eyes narrowed. "You don't decide that." Luca's voice dropped. "This is my home." Emma's voice stayed calm. "And it's my life." They moved to the front entry with Miles and 2 guards. Luca walked in front, Mateo beside Emma, close enough that she felt his warmth without him touching. At the gate, Victor Hale stood like he belonged there. He wore a clean coat, expensive shoes, and a smile that didn't reach his eyes. He looked like a man who could charm a room and ruin a life without raising his voice. His gaze slid past Luca and landed on Emma. His smile widened. "There she is." Emma's stomach turned. Luca's posture blocked her slightly. "Leave." Victor chuckled. Luca, always intense. His eyes returned to Emma. "Emma, sweetheart." Emma's jaw tightened. "Don't call me that." Victor's smile sharpened. "Still stubborn. I used to admire that in your mother." Emma felt Mateo's body go still beside her. Emma's voice stayed steady. "What do you want?" Victor's gaze flicked to Luca. "A partnership." Luca's tone was ice. "You don't get one." Victor's smile didn't fade. "I'm not talking to you." He looked at Emma again. You're smarter than this, Emma. You know how the world works. Luca owes your father's memory. He hired you out of guilt. Emma's chest tightened with anger. He hired me so you couldn't use me. Victor's eyes narrowed slightly. You think Luca is protecting you because he's kind? Matteo's voice cut in, calm and dangerous in a clean way. She doesn't need you explaining Luca's motives. She needs you gone. Victor looked at Matteo like he'd just noticed him. And you are? Matteo's smile was polite. Someone who won't let you speak to her like that. Victor's eyes turned cold. Careful. Matteo didn't move. I am. Emma took a breath and stepped forward enough to meet Victor's eyes directly. You're not getting anything from me. Not access, not favors, not a door into Luca's world. Victor's smile faded by a fraction. You're making a mistake. Emma's voice stayed steady. You're the mistake my mom didn't see soon enough. Victor's eyes hardened. Then he smiled again, slow and ugly. You think you're safe because you're standing near powerful men. Emma's stomach tightened. Luca's voice went colder. Leave, now. Victor looked at Luca, then at Emma. This isn't over. He turned and walked away like he'd already won something. The gate closed. Emma's hands trembled. Matteo's hand hovered near her elbow, still not touching, like he was waiting for her permission. Luca turned to Emma, voice tight. You shouldn't have been here. Emma met his eyes. I should have been told the truth months ago. Luca's jaw flexed. Matteo's gaze stayed on Emma. Are you okay? Emma nodded, but her throat burned. Then Matteo's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen. His expression changed, focused, sharp, but not panicked. Emma's stomach dropped. What? Matteo looked at her, voice low. Victor just contacted the wrong person. Emma's blood ran cold. Who? Matteo's eyes locked on hers. My mother, he said. Emma froze. Because that meant Victor Hale wasn't just circling Luca's power. He was circling Matteo's family too. And suddenly Emma realized the real web might be bigger than Luca's mansion. So why would Victor reach for Matteo's mother now? And what did Matteo know that he hadn't said yet? Matteo's words, my mother, followed Emma down the hallway like a warning she couldn't unhear. Luca moved fast, speaking low to Miles and the guards, issuing instructions that sounded clean and controlled. Emma didn't care about the logistics right now. She cared about the truth. She looked at Matteo. I need to talk to you. Alone. Luca's head snapped toward them. No. Emma didn't blink. Yes. Luca's jaw tightened. This isn't the time. Emma's voice stayed calm. It's exactly the time. Matteo didn't push. He simply nodded at Emma. Okay. They went to the library, and the moment the door closed, Emma exhaled shakily. Matteo turned to her, eyes steady. Tell me what you need. Emma's throat tightened. Your mother? Why would Victor contact her? Matteo hesitated. Not long, but enough. Emma's chest tightened. You know him. Matteo's voice went quiet. I know of him. Emma stared. That's not an answer. Matteo exhaled slowly. My mother met him years ago. Not like your mother did. Not romantically. Emma's pulse jumped. Then how? Matteo's expression stayed controlled. Victor likes doors. My mother had one. Emma's stomach flipped. What does that mean? Matteo's gaze held hers. It means Victor's been circling my family longer than I realized. Emma swallowed hard. And you didn't tell me. Matteo's voice softened. Because I didn't know it was connected to you until tonight. Emma's chest tightened. So we're both finding out we were surrounded by a man who collects people like tools. Matteo nodded once. Yes. Emma's eyes stung. I hate this. Matteo stepped closer. Not touching yet. Just close. Me too. Emma looked up at him. Why are you so calm? Matteo's mouth curved slightly. I'm not calm. I'm controlled. Emma let out a short breath that almost sounded like a laugh. That sounds like Luca. Matteo shook his head. No, Luca controls to own the room. I control because I don't want fear driving decisions. Emma swallowed. And what do you want? Matteo's gaze dropped to her mouth, then returned to her eyes. You. Emma's pulse jumped. Matteo's voice stayed gentle. Not as a prize. Not to prove anything to Luca. I want you because you're you. Emma's chest tightened. You barely know me. Matteo's eyes softened. Then let me learn you. Emma should have stepped back. Instead, she whispered, How? Matteo lifted his hand slowly, stopping just before touching her cheek like he was asking permission without words. Emma didn't flinch. Matteo's fingertips brushed her cheek, light, warm, careful. Emma's breath caught. Matteo's voice went lower. Like this, with respect, with patience, with the kind of attention you shouldn't have to beg for. Emma's eyes stung. Matteo moved closer, and this time his hand slid to her waist, gentle but sure, like he was holding her without trapping her. Emma swallowed. If I let this happen, it changes everything. Matteo nodded. Yes, Emma whispered. And Luca. Matteo didn't insult Luca. He didn't gloat. He just said softly, Luca had his chance to know you. He chose distance. I'm choosing closeness. Emma's heart pounded. Matteo leaned in, stopping inches away. Tell me yes. Emma's voice barely came out. Yes. Matteo kissed her. Slow, warm, certain. Not rushed, not messy, not secret. Emma melted into it, gripping his suit jacket lightly as if she needed something steady to hold on to while her world shifted. When Matteo pulled back, his forehead touched hers for a moment. You okay? Emma exhaled. Yes. Matteo's mouth curved. Good. Because I've been thinking about kissing you since you fell into my arms and I was trying to be polite. Emma let out a breathy laugh through her nerves. You're not polite. Matteo grinned. I'm polite enough to ask. A knock hit the door. Luca entered without waiting. He stopped when he saw them. Not just standing close, connected. Luca's face went still like the sight hit him somewhere painful. Emma, Luca said quietly. A word. Matteo's posture stayed calm. Anything you say to her, you can say in front of me. Luca's eyes hardened. This isn't your business. Matteo's voice stayed even. You made it my business when you used her as a secret. Emma stepped forward. Stop. Both men froze again. Emma looked at Luca. I'm leaving tonight. Luca's jaw flexed. No. Emma's eyes narrowed. I'm not asking. Luca's voice went tight. Victor is out there. Emma nodded. And I'm still leaving. Luca's gaze locked onto her like he was trying to pull her back with sheer will. Where will you go? Emma turned to Matteo, then back to Luca. Somewhere I'm not managed. Matteo's voice went soft. With me. Luca stared at Matteo, then at Emma. His control cracked for half a second, just long enough for Emma to see something raw. Regret. Luca's voice dropped. If you walk out that door, you can't unwalk it. Emma held his gaze. I know. Luca swallowed. Is it him? Emma answered honestly. Yes. Silence. Then Luca did something Emma didn't expect. He stepped back. Not as permission, as acceptance. I'll shut Victor down, Luca said quietly, without you paying for it. Emma's throat tightened. Why? Luca's eyes held hers. Because you deserve peace. And because I should have treated you like a person from the beginning. Emma's chest tightened. Matteo didn't speak. He let the moment belong to Emma and Luca, because Matteo didn't need to win by humiliating anyone. Emma nodded slowly. Thank you. Luca's gaze flicked to Matteo. If you hurt her. Matteo's voice stayed calm. I won't. Luca's jaw flexed. Don't waste her. Matteo nodded once. I won't. Emma's pulse hammered as Matteo took her hand. They walked toward the elevator. Behind them, Luca didn't stop them. but Emma could feel his eyes on her back like an apology that came too late. Inside the elevator, Matteo exhaled slowly, then looked down at Emma with that steady warmth again. "Are you sure?" Matteo asked. Emma nodded. "I'm sure." Matteo's smile turned soft and wicked at the same time. "Good, because I want to kiss you again the second these doors close." Emma laughed, breath shaky. "Then do it." Matteo kissed her, slower this time, deeper, like he wasn't just claiming a moment. He was building a promise. When he pulled back, he whispered, "You're not a secret." Emma's eyes stung. Then Matteo's phone buzzed again. He checked it. His expression sharpened. Emma's stomach tightened. "What now?" Matteo looked at her, voice low. "My mother wants to meet you." Emma blinked. "Tonight?" Matteo's mouth curved. "Tomorrow." Emma's pulse jumped. "Tomorrow is fast." Matteo nodded. "So is Victor." Emma swallowed hard, because meeting Matteo's mother should have felt sweet and simple. But now it felt like stepping into a truth Matteo hadn't fully opened yet. So what exactly would Matteo's mother tell Emma? And why did it feel like that conversation could change everything? Emma didn't wake up the next morning in Luca Conti's mansion. She woke up in Matteo's apartment in Manhattan, clean, warm, quiet, and normal, in a way that made her chest loosen. No guards outside her door, no rules hanging in the air. Just Matteo in a plain t-shirt, making coffee like the world wasn't trying to squeeze them. Emma walked into the kitchen wearing one of his hoodies, hair messy, face bare. Matteo looked up and smiled like he'd been waiting for this exact sight. "There you are," he said. Emma's cheeks warmed. "I'm here." Matteo's eyes softened. "How did you sleep?" Emma hesitated. "Better than I expected." Matteo nodded like he understood. "Your body's still catching up to the fact that you're free." Emma swallowed. "Free is a strong word." Matteo stepped closer, hands sliding to her waist gently. "Then call it what you want, but you're not being managed today." Emma exhaled, then whispered, "Thank you." Matteo's mouth curved. "For what?" Emma looked up at him. "For not making me feel like I owe you." Matteo kissed her forehead. "I don't want your debt. I want your choice." Emma's throat tightened. Matteo's phone buzzed again. He checked it, expression focused but calm. Emma's stomach flipped. "Is it Luca?" Matteo nodded. "Yes." Emma's pulse jumped. "What does he want?" Matteo read quickly, then looked up. He found the source of the texts. Emma's blood ran cold. "Victor's people?" Matteo's jaw tightened. "A burner service. But Luca also found something else." Emma swallowed. "What?" Matteo hesitated, then decided to be straight with her. "Victor tried to approach my mother years ago through a charity board she sat on." Emma frowned. "That's how she met him?" Matteo nodded once. "Yes. He tried to use her name to get near someone else." She shut him down. She kept records. Emma's chest tightened. "So she knows exactly who he is." Matteo's expression turned serious. "More than that, she knows his pattern." Emma swallowed hard. "And she wants to meet me." Matteo's voice softened. "Yes, she said she won't let Victor circle you the way he circled other women." Emma's eyes stung. "That's kind." Matteo's mouth curved. "She's kind, but she's also sharp. You'll like her." Emma tried to breathe through the nerves. "What do I wear?" Matteo blinked, amused. "Emma." Emma pressed her lips together. "What?" Matteo smiled warmly. "You're not going to an interview. You're meeting my mom." Emma exhaled shakily. "That's worse." Matteo laughed softly. "Okay, fair." He pulled her closer, voice low. "Wear whatever makes you feel like you." Emma swallowed. "I don't know who that is yet." Matteo's gaze softened. "Then we'll find out together." The afternoon moved fast. Matteo took Emma to a quiet cafe, not because he needed to impress her, but because he wanted her to feel the normal parts of life again. He asked simple questions: favorite movie, favorite song, what she wanted her future to look like if no one controlled it. Emma found herself answering honestly. And the more she answered, the more she realized she didn't feel trapped. She felt wanted. When Mateo reached across the table and brushed his thumb over her knuckles, Emma didn't tense. She relaxed. Mateo watched her and smiled. "You're different today." Emma blinked. "Different how?" Mateo's voice stayed soft. "Lighter." Emma swallowed. "Because no one's watching." Mateo's eyes held hers. "I'm watching." Emma's cheeks warmed. Mateo's smile turned slow. "But I'm not watching to control you. I'm watching because I like you." Emma's chest tightened with warmth. That night, back at Mateo's apartment, Emma stood near the window in the quiet. City lights, soft music. No tension in the air except the kind she wanted. Mateo stepped behind her, arms sliding around her waist gently. Emma leaned back into him without thinking. Mateo's mouth brushed her neck, soft, slow. Then he whispered, "You're safe." Emma closed her eyes. "I didn't think safety could feel like this." Mateo's voice went lower. "Like what?" Emma turned in his arms, looking up at him. "Like someone wants me without trying to own me." Mateo held her gaze. "That's exactly it." He kissed her, warm, unhurried, hands respectful but sure, like he was building trust with every second. Emma kissed him back, letting herself want without guilt. When they finally pulled apart, Emma whispered, "What if Luca can't shut Victor down?" Mateo's expression stayed steady. "He will." Emma searched his face. "How do you know?" Mateo exhaled. "Because Luca feels responsible. And because my mother is already preparing to help." Emma's pulse jumped. "Help how?" Mateo hesitated. Emma's eyes narrowed slightly. "Mateo?" Mateo smiled, a little guilty. "Okay, truth." Emma waited. Mateo's voice went calm. "My mother has influence. Not mafia influence. Real influence. Boards, donors, attorneys, records. The kind of influence Victor can't charm." Emma's chest tightened. "So tomorrow isn't just meeting your mom." Mateo's gaze held hers. "No, it's meeting a woman who already decided Victor won't touch you." Emma swallowed. Because that sounded protective in a way that didn't trap her. It sounded like a wall built to keep danger out, not to keep Emma in. Mateo brushed her cheek gently. "Are you okay with that?" Emma nodded slowly. "Yes." Mateo's smile softened. "Good, because she already likes you." Emma blinked. "She's never met me." Mateo's mouth curved. "She said any woman who walked out of Luca Conti's mansion on her own terms has good sense." Emma let out a surprised laugh. "Your mom sounds intense." Mateo grinned. "She is." Emma's phone buzzed on the counter. She glanced at the screen. Unknown number again. Her blood turned cold. She opened it. "Ask Mateo why his last name isn't the first one he was born with." Emma froze. Mateo's smile faded as he saw her expression. "What is it?" he asked. Emma held up the phone, hands trembling slightly. "He knows something about you." Mateo's face went still. Not fear, not panic. A quiet, serious focus. Emma's throat tightened. "Mateo, what is he talking about?" Mateo stared at the message for a long second. Then he looked at Emma and said softly, "We need to tell you something before my mother does." Emma's heart slammed against her ribs. Because Mateo had been honest, but not fully. And now Victor Hale was proving he had more information than he should. So what name was Mateo born with? And why did Victor think it could break them? Emma met Mateo's mother the next day, and it was nothing like she expected. No interrogation, no cold judgment, no fake smile, just a strong woman named Elena, sharp eyes, calm voice, and the kind of presence that made the room feel steadier the moment she walked in. Elena hugged Emma first, not politely, tightly. "I've been waiting," Elena said. Emma blinked, stunned. "Waiting?" Elena pulled back, holding Emma's shoulders like she was checking her for bruises she couldn't see. "Yes, because Victor Hale doesn't stop unless someone makes him." Mateo stood beside Emma, hand in hers, steady. Emma's voice came out quiet. "He's been texting me." Elena nodded like she expected it. I know. Emma's stomach flipped. How? Elena glanced at Matteo. Because he texted me too. Matteo's jaw tightened slightly. Mom. Elena lifted a hand. No secrets in this room. Emma's heart pounded. Elena looked at Emma, voice calm and clear. Victor once tried to use my family to reach powerful people. He failed. When he fails, he looks for a softer target. That's what you are to him. Emma's chest tightened. A target. Elena nodded. Not because you're weak, because you're connected. Emma swallowed hard. Connected to Luca. Elena's eyes sharpened. Connected to Luca, yes. Then Elena's gaze flicked to Matteo. And connected to my son in a way Victor didn't expect. Elena added. Emma's pulse jumped. Because Matteo's last name. Matteo exhaled slowly, like he'd been holding this inside for too long. He looked at Emma, eyes steady. I was born Matteo Hale. Emma froze. Elena's face stayed calm. Victor is Matteo's biological father. Emma's mind went blank for a second. Matteo's voice stayed low, controlled. My mother left before Victor could trap her. She changed my name. She built a life that kept him away. Emma stared at Matteo, chest tight. And he found you again. Matteo nodded once. He tries sometimes. He always tries. Emma's hands trembled slightly. So he's not just circling me because of Luca. Elena's voice was steady. He's circling you because you're with Matteo, and because he thinks he can break you both. Emma swallowed hard. Matteo stepped closer, palms gentle on Emma's arms. I didn't tell you because I didn't want you to look at me differently. Emma stared up at him. Do you think this makes me want you less? Matteo's eyes searched hers. I didn't know. Emma's throat tightened with emotion. Then she did the only honest thing. She cupped Matteo's face and kissed him. Slow, certain, warm. When she pulled back, she whispered, You're not him. Matteo's eyes stung. Emma. Emma shook her head slightly. You're not him, and you don't get punished for what he is. Elena watched them with a soft expression, then said, Good, because I like you even more now. Emma let out a shaky laugh. That's comforting. Elena nodded. It should be. We'll handle Victor properly. And they did. Not with violence. With records, attorneys, cease and desist orders, and a quiet network of people Victor couldn't intimidate. Luca played his part too, closing doors Victor hoped to use, making sure Victor's name stopped being welcome in rooms that mattered. Within weeks, the texts stopped. The threats dried up. The air cleared. 3 months later, Emma stood barefoot in a sunlit kitchen in a quiet coastal town in Maine, coffee warm in her hands, hair loose, peace in her chest. Matteo stood behind her, arms around her waist, kissing her neck like it was his favorite habit. You're thinking, Matteo murmured. Emma smiled. I'm breathing. Matteo chuckled. Same thing with you. On the counter sat a simple ring box, already open. Emma turned in his arms, looking up at him. You really moved your life. Matteo's eyes softened. I didn't move my life. I chose it. Emma swallowed, emotional. And you chose me. Matteo nodded, voice low. Every day. He lifted her hand, kissed her knuckles, then looked at her like the world could wait. Emma Carter, he said softly. Marry me. Emma didn't hesitate. Yes, she whispered. Yes. Matteo kissed her, slow, sweet, sure, like the answer was everything he wanted. Emma laughed when he scooped her up and carried her down the hallway like she weighed nothing. Matteo, she squealed, gripping his shoulders. Matteo grinned. You fell into my arms once. I'm just making it official. Emma pressed her forehead to his, smiling so hard it hurt. She wasn't surviving someone else's world anymore. She was living her own, held by a man who never needed to control her to keep her close. Matteo set her down gently, then whispered, One more thing. Emma blinked. What? Matteo's eyes warmed. Luca texted me. Emma's stomach flipped. Why? Matteo's mouth curved. He said he's coming to the wedding. Emma blinked. He is? Matteo nodded, amused. And he said he wants to apologize to you. Properly. In person. Emma's chest tightened, because part of her wondered what that would feel like. Closure, real closure, without guilt. Then Emma's phone buzzed on the counter. She glanced at the screen. A new text. Unknown number. Emma's blood turned cold for half a second, until she read it. It's Tessa. Tell me everything right now, or I will drive to Maine and scream. Emma burst out laughing. Matteo blinked, confused. What? Emma held up the phone, grinning. It's not Victor. It's Tessa being dramatic. Matteo exhaled like he'd been holding his breath. Thank God. Emma laughed again, then looked up at Matteo, warmth flooding her chest. Okay, she whispered. We'll tell her everything. Matteo's grin turned wicked. Everything? Emma swatted his chest lightly. You know what I mean. Matteo leaned in, voice low. I do, but I also know what I want. Emma's cheeks warmed. And what do you want? Matteo kissed her softly, then whispered, a wedding, a life, and a very long honeymoon. Emma laughed, breath shaky with happiness. And as the ocean air rolled in through the open window, Emma realized something simple and beautiful. Love didn't have to feel like a cage. It could feel like choice. Every single day. So when Luca Conti shows up to that wedding, what will he say when he finally apologizes without trying to control the ending?